Hello, this is Xbox Ahoy, and this is the bonus footage from my time with the KSG. Well, it's been a rather interesting week, hasn't it, with the announcement of the new Xbox One yesterday. Not quite sure what to make of it, really. I mean, it looks pretty good, the hardware's good, the controller, the new one, looks pretty interesting. So it seems like things are business as usual, albeit with a new generation and a bit more power. There are some reservations knocking about with regard to used games, but we're still lacking some details on that, I feel. I think my major concern is HDCP, copy protection on the HDMI output. But in the grand scheme of things, that's a relatively minor technical obstacle. Otherwise, am I excited? Not hugely, but it will be nice to have a more powerful system. The 8GB of RAM, that's a nice touch, 16 times what the Xbox 360 has. So that means the ceiling has been raised, and games should be bigger, look better, and all the rest of it. I am quite excited for Forza Motorsport 5, I'm a big fan of the Forza series. So I'll definitely be picking that up on launch, and yeah, I guess Call of Duty Ghosts as well. I mean, make no mistake, it's just another Call of Duty game. But it'll be a little bit prettier, and it looks like there's deeper customization, so it might be okay. You never know, you never know. Anyway, that's what I think about the Xbox One. I figured that'd be kind of, you know, the big news and the sort of the major questions people might have. But the questions from the KSG video, they're about a week and a half old now, so they wouldn't be as topical. Anyway, let's get on with those questions. A random Tom asks, what are your PC specs, Stu? Nothing too outrageous. I have an i5 2500K overclocked. I don't know what it's overclocked to, actually, but it's overclocked a little bit. And I have a GTX 570 on my old graphics card. Apart from that, I've got 16GB of RAM. I upgraded that from the 4 the system originally came with for the sake of video editing. Other bits and bobs, I use twin 30-inch monitors. I've got a couple of Dell 3007s. I've been using those since my last PC, the one before this one, back in 2007, and they've done me extremely good duty ever since. The best $2,500 I ever spent. For my file storage needs, I've got I think I've got a 3TB drive plus an SSD internal. I've also got a Drobo F external unit connected via eSATA with 5 2TB drives for 8TB of redundant storage. Great for backups, and if a drive fails, I'm not completely lost. Finally, input-wise, mouse, I've got a Logitech MX518, and my keyboard is a mechanical DAS Professional. So yeah, that's my PC. I think that covers everything interesting. It's not the most powerful PC in the world, but it gets the job done. Mr. Hooky Stick asks, when you do branch out to other games, or will you try to keep it to shootery kind of ones to easily keep the same format? The types of games that I'm going to cover in the future are probably going to reflect the type of games that I enjoy playing the most. I mean, I find it's best to be, you know, honest in that regard. You don't want to force yourself to play a game that you don't like just for the views or whatever. So, what kind of games do I like? I do like shooters, I do. So I think it is fair to say that they might crop up again in the future. But there's no reason why I wouldn't do a third-person shooter, for instance, so that's a possibility. I'm actually quite a long-standing fan of strategy games. I'm a big fan of Civilization, I love the XCOM series and stuff like that. So it's not entirely out of the question that I'll cover stuff like that. The same applies to driving games as well. I'm a big fan of driving games, from stuff like Forza, big fan of the Dirt series. Of course I love Euro Truck Simulator. So stuff like that, yeah. I mean, after all, if these are the games that I play, then why not make videos for them? As far as stuff you won't see, I'm not a big fan of sports games. So you're probably not going to see any FIFA videos. And I tried playing Dota 2 the other day. Wasn't a big fan of that. But I don't know, maybe I just don't get it. But yeah, I wouldn't hold out for any League of Legends content or Dota 2 or anything like that. BO2 Bonus 999 asks, hey Stu, blue, green or red top milk? Well, I'm not a big milk drinker. In fact, I don't really drink milk at all. I'll use it in my coffee sometimes and I'll cook with it. I usually buy the green top stuff, that is to say semi-skimmed. Semi-Uzi asks, so what's your favourite fruit, Stu? I thought we established this. I remember having a discussion about the word banana. Anyway, favourite common fruit is a banana. Favourite exotic fruit, well, I like a cherry. You know, bit of cherry, maybe strawberries. The berries, they're your money fruit. Providence Prod asks, Stu, what are your opinions on YouTube video downloaders? Do you favour the ability for viewers to watch your videos at any time, even when offline? Or would you prefer the views and revenue instead? Well, I mean, if it came down to it, if you're asking me whether I'd prefer someone to watch a video on my channel or to watch it, you know, that they've already downloaded, then of course, you know, the one that benefits me the most is the one I'd prefer. And the option that benefits me the most is, well, watching it on my channel, so obviously I'll get ad views and ad revenue and all the rest of it. But I've got to be honest, I mean, the idea of people downloading my videos and watching them, you know, offline, doesn't really bother me. It's a side effect of success, really. And I know the people who are likely to do that are also the people who are likely to come back to my channel every week and watch the video on my channel. So yeah, bottom line, doesn't really bother me. It's not even a consideration most of the time. Nuclear Acorn Evans asks, "Hey Stu, have you played Dead Island Riptide? If so, what do you think of it?" I haven't. I didn't really want to pick that one up full price, because, well, the reviews haven't been great for it. I've played the first one. I actually really liked the first one. You know, even a bad game with co-op is still a co-op game, you know, and co-op can be really good fun. But even as a single-player game, it did have some merit. I think there was some wasted potential, you know? The first game started on a really promising note, but you realise that it felt like an open world at first, and then you realised actually it's quite a small map. And then you realise there are levels, and the later levels aren't nearly as interesting as the beachside resort. So yeah, it was a game that was flawed, but it did have some merit. As far as Riptide's concerned, I might pick it up at some point, but I'm in no hurry. Sam Williams asks, "Can anyone tell me the shell colour of 12-gauge slugs? Is it green like in the game?" Now, I'm not an expert. I don't exactly buy 12-gauge slugs on the reg, but it's my understanding that it varies from manufacturer to manufacturer. So if you wanted to, you could probably find slugs with hulls of any colour. Son of Boba Fett asks, "Ahoy, if you could create your own government, what kind of government would it be?" Probably a technocracy. I'm centrist on most issues, but I'd really like to see investment in infrastructure, you know, with the internet and technology and space and stuff like that. I've got to say, I'm honestly quite surprised that there isn't like a technocrat party, because I would totally vote for them. Ben Kenobi 742 asks, "Hello Stu, how did you manage to get one-hit kills with the M1216 and S12? Well, they're not too hard to get, but it is always going to be a grind, bear that in mind. But the only real secret is, you got to get real close, and then you got to shoot them, and then hopefully kill them in one shot, and then that's it. That's the only real trick to it. So if I were going for one-hit kills, I would probably go with a mobile class so I can get close, so extreme conditioning, dexterity, lightweight. And as far as attachments, obviously you want long barrel to maximise your damage, and maybe the laser sight as well, just to sort of give you a tighter grouping when you hip fire. So get all those things in your class loadout and just run around and shoot people, and eventually you'll earn those 100 ever so elusive one-shot kills. Specialist Luigi says, "Hey Stu, 2 questions here. 1. Do you really read all the comments on your videos? And 2. How do you decide which questions you're going to answer in the bonus videos? Do you choose the ones that interest you the most, or the ones that your audience might like?" First part, do I read all of the comments? Within the first week of a video's release, pretty much yes. When it comes to picking up the questions, I will start at the very earliest comments, all of the ones that say first, second, anyone who says first is a loser, and so forth. Yeah, I'll read all of those. Of course, I never pick them because they're terrible comments. And then I'll make my way all the way to the newest comments, and I'll just pick up anything that might be interesting. As far as comment selection, I don't know. I just pick up the ones that I think are interesting. The ones that I want to answer is probably what I go for. Like, sometimes, I don't know, people ask about, have you ever seen such and such? And if the answer is no, then it doesn't really make for the most interesting question. I'll also tend to skip over questions that I've answered before, or questions that are too personal, or questions that are predicated on an incorrect assumption. Anything that's passive-aggressive or just plain offensive, that'll get passed over as well. Of course, there is the possibility that I might just have missed the question. Irate HD says, "I have a feeling your voice will be in the new Call of Duty Ghosts." Well, if it is, it'll be news to me. My voiceover work only extends to Elite and also some Call of Duty Online stuff at the minute. But I am currently unbound by any sort of exclusivity contract, so other games. You know, if someone from Respawn Entertainment or another studio is looking for a faction announcer, I'd be willing to step up to the plate. One Hip Hop Hotimus 1 says, "Hey Xbox Ahoy, what's your opinion on the Ballista Iron Sight attachment? Do you think it's a good attachment for somebody looking for a closer range, more aggressive one-hit kill rifle setup similar to World at War? And do you think the attachment is good enough to be featured in your guide to the Ballista?" I've only used it a little bit, so I don't know. I understand that it's okay, but it's not the best attachment for the Ballista. But having said that, the Ballista is the next weapon that I need to record with. I will be recording for the Iron Sight attachment guide to go alongside it, so I'm going to get at least 500 kills with the Iron Sight. And at some point after that, I'll decide whether it's worth recommending or if I'll go with something else instead. Blonkerboy900 asks, Stu, ever gotten the nuclear medal? I have not. Given that I tend to play Team Deathmatch, and given that I tend to play probably too aggressively, the higher streaks do elude me. I'm pretty sure TDM nuclears are possible, but getting 30 kills out of 75 without dying, that's a feat that is rather difficult. I found it rather difficult getting the 20 kills without dying. I only recently unlocked the TDM Master card with 20 streak in TDM. That was difficult enough. But I tend not to go for the long streaks, I tend to go for the clips. So I'm more about the triple kills, the fury kills, the frenzy kills. That's what I'm after. I mean, a nuclear streak is no good to me if it's all sort of comes in drips and drabs and lasts 5 minutes. I mean, 5 minutes of clip. I don't have any spaces that are 5 minutes long. I'm all about that high-intensity gameplay. To summarise, I suck at Black Ops 2. Hayden I says, Stu, you used the MMS quite a bit in the video, so why didn't you suggest it in the loadout? The MMS certainly isn't a bad choice for the KSG, and if you want to go the primary gunfighter route, maybe the MMS or the Reflex, that's what I'd go for next. But I mean, to be honest, the iron sights are good enough for the ranges that you'll be using the KSG at, so sticking an optic on there and taking the primary gunfighter wildcard to do so, I don't know, maybe it's not the most efficient use of points. It's certainly not a bad loadout, I had a lot of fun with it. You know, these clips on Nuketown are pretty indicative of that, I think. But no, for, you know, the sake of the final loadout, I couldn't really justify spending 2 points on an optic. Runips asks, Hey Stu, if you had to make a video game, what would it be about? What genre would it be? Who would be in it? Is there co-op? Etc. Now, I did a bit of games development back in the 16-bit era. I was pretty good with Amos Basic on my old Amiga, but I've kind of fallen out of touch a little bit, and while I am still in touch with programming, I mean, I'm pretty familiar with C# and the .NET framework and all the rest of it. I have a bit of a critical lack of experience with stuff like OpenGL, DirectX, and all the, you know, the gamey technologies. I did dabble with XNA to the point where I was able to make a prototype 2D game, but it never really progressed beyond that, and XNA has, well, it's ceased development, unfortunately. I suppose I could pick up Mono Game, but it really becomes a question of available time. I'd have to devote my entire life to games development to even have a chance at making something decent. But games development has been on my mind of late. I've been thinking about this idea that I've had that I'd really like to work on. I don't have much time left, so I'll try and keep it brief. It would essentially be a three-dimensional survival horror roguelike. One of the key things I'm interested in is procedurally generated content, randomly generated worlds. I love Minecraft for this reason. I think Minecraft does that very, very well. But I think as far as the survival aspect, Minecraft falls down in a couple of areas. So my idea is, basically, you wake up in a hospital in a randomly generated world. Presumably you've recovered from a coma or something, and everybody is gone. You're entirely alone, and you just wake up in this coma or whatever, and you've got to fend for yourself, and everybody's just disappeared. There's no nuclear blast, there's no corpses, no zombies, just nothing. As far as the world style, I'd probably model it after what I know. I'd probably make it look like a UK small town or something like that. And the basic part of the game, you know, you'd find somewhere to sleep, you'd get food, you'd get water, you'd get shelter, you'd forage for supplies, and you basically, yeah, it would be a hoarder simulator. You can collect batteries and medicine and stuff like that, and you can sort of forage for stuff and explore abandoned buildings. A bit like Fallout 3, but with a randomly generated world. Now, after this, the narrative would start to kick into play, and I think this is where we can have a bit of fun with, you know, the horror aspect. I think maybe beyond the odd wild animal, I don't really want there to be an explicit threat in the game. I want that sort of stuff to be easy to deal with. I want to make it a psychological horror. So really subtle stuff. I would make it so maybe you have like a critical weakness when you wake up in the hospital and you need regular medication or something. At some point down the line, I would have that medication that you're critically dependent on, I would have it simply disappear into thin air. And then maybe later on I'd have somebody, you know, mess up your stuff, maybe just make everything unkempt and move things around, or leave your front door open. Really, really sort of freaky stuff. You know, designed to make the player paranoid and all the rest of it, and I'd slowly ramp it up to the point where the player would either move on or, you know, maybe stay up all night and wait for something to happen, but nothing would ever happen. I don't really have a good end game yet, but I kind of have an idea of how to craft it into an end game. I kind of want it to sort of drive the player slowly insane to the point where they doubt their own mind. Anyway, this is kind of my game idea. It's not going to happen ever because I can't produce video games. but you never know. Really, I just want like a sandbox, explore, and hoarding game, like Fallout 3, but randomly generated and set in the UK. But I do think something like that would be a really good platform for a psychological horror. Now, I don't like traditional horror games. I really don't. Because, you know, like you shoot somebody and you got these enemies to shoot and they give you like 6 bullets. That's not horror. That's just annoying. I want the player to be able to find like a military armory and maybe get a shopping cart full of ammunition and have as many bullets as they want, but I want it to be worthless against the psychological threat that we throw at them. You can't shoot what you don't see, and it's what we don't see that is the most scary thing of all. So yeah, that's my game concept, if I were to make a game. What would I call it? I don't know. Probably call it something clever like Nothing to Be Afraid Of. There we go. Anyway, that's me out of clips, so thank you very much for watching. I shall see you next time. We have the Hammer coming up on Friday. We have the Hybrid Optic coming up on Sunday. Those of you who follow me on Tumblr might also know that I've been working on a Metro Last Light video. I'm hoping to be able to finish that this weekend. I don't know when it's going to go live, possibly Monday, but don't hold me to that because I need to finish it first, and I haven't even started it. Well, I have all of the gameplay I need at least. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.